Hello, everybody. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Harmony, you want to verify quorum?
Yes, sir. Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hagen?
Here.
Director Nathan?
Here.
Director Welty?
Here.
President Queen?
Here.
By present, quorum met.
All right. Everyone mute your phones. Okay, first item is approval of minutes. We have March 6th, March 20th, April 3rd, and April 16th. I make a motion that we approve the minutes listed as written.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Public official comments. I saw Nancy earlier. No, you have nothing, Nancy? Randy, I know you wanted to talk.
Our city council meeting is usually following the board meeting, but this year, this month, our mayor, Vicki Warren, is on a family cruise with 19 members of her family, and so we moved it into the next Wednesday, a week from today, which is May 9th. So I hope everyone can attend. This morning we were talking about the slurry project you might have seen on Railroad Canyon Road. From entrance to entrance, east to west or west to east, it's going to be, the whole area is going to be the slurry project. But Black Horse to Sorrel is where the most effort is going to be. So we asked for a lot of patience when people are going to be driving through that area. The project is going to, because it's going to be raining, supposedly be raining the next 3 days, they're going to delay it until the starting next week, but it'll still be within the 45 days of the contract. So we'll get it done. It's going to start next week. First of all, I'd like to just congratulate this board. I think you did a really fine job this last 12 months and made a lot of accomplishments, and thank you very much for all the good heart and efforts you made on your part. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about a person by the name of Paul Queen. When I became the mayor last June, I don't think Paul really knew much of me, and I didn't know much about Paul. But very quickly I found out that he's really a leader, and he made things happen. And we're very fortunate to have someone like that in that type of position. And so we appreciate that. There are some differences we have of some things that were done, and I'm sure Paul had some question about some things the city council did. But one thing we quickly did, we gained mutual respect to each other, and to working together makes a lot of difference. You know, Paul has been a real supporter of the Roundtable. I don't know, most people probably know the Roundtable, but it's a monthly meeting with the city, the POA, the law enforcement, the community patrol, and the water district, and we talk about things that we can improve our efficiencies of the operations. And so, and I got to tell you, Paul, when you weren't able to come because of your work commitments, and we totally understood that, it took 2 directors to come in your place. So. So, with that say, I'd just like to leave this a couple thoughts. Paul, I'm a little older than you, so I'm going to give you a couple thoughts. Number one, I would probably think it's pretty hard for you not to run for re-election, but you did the right thing. There's time in life where the family has to be number one, and you to stay and support Stacy is incredibly good idea on your part, and I appreciate that. And finally, I think that the council and a lot of the members or the citizens appreciate the good work that, Paul, that you've done, and we wish you the best and thank you for everything.
Thank you for all the kind words, Randy. You can see why I like this guy. All right. Presentations, Eric.
Well, pretty much ditto what Randy just said. You said a lot of things I wanted to say, and you said it very well. I also want to thank Dale and Paul for their 2 years served on this board, and I think while I'm sitting down, I'll try to rattle off a very partial list that I threw together of a few of the things we've accomplished, this board and management, over the last 2 years. The main gate entry monuments and fountains, Happy Camp renovation, both of which have been kicked around for years and years. I think Happy Camp's been kicked around for probably 10 years and very near completion. Park renovations all over the place, trees and shade all over the community, country club remodel, little project we just kind of snuck in during the 2-week period of overseeding the golf course, and that's actually making quite a difference, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Rental docks, which is another source of revenue to the POA and something that's been talked about for years. New equestrian footing for the equestrian center, causeway lighting, a new security contract, which is a major accomplishment for this board. We've renewed our legal contract, another accomplishment for this board. This is a little sneak announcement. We've also just renewed our Golf Pros contract, another accomplishment. So we have good people, good vendors and good contractors here, and this board's done a good job of recognizing who those people are and keeping them around. And another thing this board has done is really build a very strong management team, and I think the community would agree we're getting a lot done, more than's probably been done in years, and it's because this board assembled the right group of people and the right group of vendors and contractors and personnel, and so, all the credit goes to them, really. A few more projects. Mailbox replacement, that's another one that's been kicked around for probably a decade, and we're doing it right now. Replaced virtually the entire operations fleet, which some of the trucks were 1992 or 4, had no air conditioning, and imagine doing that, driving around working here in the summer when 115 degrees and no air conditioning. So we've kind of stepped up our game here just across the board. New solar buoys, shade, pull furniture, renovations in this room and the balcony outside, and a new amphitheater in Holiday Harbor, and that's probably been talked about for 20 years, and a dog park, Eastport improvements. The list goes on and on and on, and this is just a few things, and these are some pretty major projects, and to get all that done in the last 2 years is really give these guys a hand. So with that, I could go on for an hour about everything we've gotten done, but really thank you, Dale, our Vice President, for your past 2 years. Dale's running for re-election, so little campaign plug for him. And he's going to say it anyway, so I might as well say it for him. And then Paul. We, as Randy said, we've had our differences a few times, and every single time we've had our differences, we came to some middle ground, and what Randy said perfectly nails my relationship with you, I think, over the last 2 years, is that we have butted heads and we have disagreed, but we've agreed to disagree, and we've always found middle ground, and I think we pretty early on found mutual respect for each other, which is key in working together, and we did that textbook as far as I'm concerned, and it's been a pleasure working with Dale and with you, Paul, and so I'll get up now. But I really want to thank both these gentlemen.
want to say thank you to Dale. I mean, I think Dale's done an outstanding job for the last 2 years. And Dale, I feel like you kind of got skipped over there. Did you want to say a few words before we go on?
Real quick, I just want to say thank you to all of you out there for your support for the past couple of years. I have to say that the board functioned very well this year, and it was a pleasure. The prior boards left us in some good positions, which was very helpful. The staff has been overwhelmingly impressive. For any of you that have had a chance to work with the staff at the POA, the new people that came on, and we lost 3 of our main people at the beginning, was about a year ago or 14 months ago, and these guys stepped in and filled in, and they've just excelled, and we are so lucky to have this group here, and just want to say thank you to the staff for all your hard work.
Sorry about that. Thank you. All right. Consent agenda. It's a very long consent agenda. We have A through R. And I believe we would like to pull items I through Q.
Items I through Q pulled.
Yes. So for the consent agenda, items A through H, and also item R. Or no, item R is a different item. So just A through H. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through H? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
For items I through Q, these are all related to the fishing rule. And it looks like, we talked about this a little bit in executive session. It looks like we have a fishing rule for guests fishing where you're required to have a member with you if you're fishing as a guest. The rule that's written, all these rules, almost, I think all these, I all the way through Q, is kind of designed to kind of replace that one simple rule. And when we talked about it, I think most of us agreed that we think that the rule that exists is fine. We just need to enforce it. So I'm going to make a motion that we just table I through Q and instead ask that both the Road Patrol and the Marine Patrol help to enforce the existing rule for fishing with our guests fishing.
I second it.
Any discussion? Well, we're tabling it, so, I mean, Howard, what would the procedure be? Should we have their comments, or if we're tabling it, do we not comment? I don't know.
You can have it during member comments, but you can't have it now if you're tabling it.
Okay.
I'm going to I want to make a comment. I think what you just said about the rule being fine as it is probably not necessarily, at least for me, not what I would say is in agreement. You know, I think that the rule about guests and coming to fish on the lake with no member present has been the concern, and that's what this sort of went to the committee about, to figure out if that's something we really should continue, because the protocols we have in place are sort of set up for failure. We have only a couple locations that are not open many hours that people need to obtain these permits from, and when they don't have that opportunity, then they just fish anyway. Some people just fish anyway, even though the permits are available. Marine Patrol, Road Patrol can only do so much, and it just seems like it's a system is sort of broken, and we're trying to fix how we address the person being here as a fisherman in Canyon Lake. And I think the idea is that members fishing with guests is probably okay, but guests fishing by themselves without any member is just an animal that we just can't handle at Canyon Lake right now. And so that's what we're trying to do is modify that rule to make it so that members need to be with their guests when they fish.
That's what the existing rule says, though, Tom.
Pardon me?
That's what the existing rule says.
There's a rule that says that you can fish without the member, and that's the one we were trying
If you
to address.
buy the pass.
Right, and what I think the community is saying is that we shouldn't have that at all.
So the current rule,
Well, let's,
the current
what we
rule-
can do is organize the conversation, because the people at home would like to hear you, and they can't hear anything, and it's unfair for them to hear background noise for 20 minutes while you have something at least you feel is important to say. So the question is, should we have them talk now, or should they have them talk in the general session?
Well, you should probably make your own discussion and decide whether you're tabling it or not, or you're hearing it. If you're not tabling it, then you could have discussion on it. You have a first and second, you've had board discussion, are you tabling it or not, I guess is the issue. Do you want to vote on it?
So, my personal preference would be for us to be able to talk about this a little bit tonight, hear from the members of the community, and if we still decide that we want to table it at the end of that discussion, we could potentially do that.
You could do that, you could take but you can't, yes, you can take the testimony if you want, but you really can't act on it unless you vote on something. If you table it, you can't do anything.
so we can take discussion without
You could take discussion.
having a motion if I cancel my motion.
You'd have to withdraw your motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion, and I'll start by reading the current rule. GR 4.4C reads, fishing permit required. Canyon Lake fishing permits are required for all guests not in the company of a CLPOA member with appropriate CLPOA identification. The fee for this permit is per day, per week, or per month. Fee information is available at the member services desk. So it basically says that you can't fish without a member being present unless you go by a permit. So we have a number of members that want to talk on this. Harmony, is this the stack?
That's for consent agenda, and also I believe you guys missed item R on the consent agenda if you want to vote after.
Okay. So first up then, Gary Bradford, 3831041.
Harmony, remind us to go back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Board. You're going to hear a lot of fishermen and other people talk tonight, and trust me, we don't all agree on all of the same thing on all of these either. So it just depends on how each rule works out and how it works. But the current rule is not that if somebody has a permit, they can go out there and fish by themselves as long as they get the fishing permit from Canyon Lake. And those fishing permits are given away all over the place. People call up, they don't even know who they're calling in, and people come in and fish and take our fish home. This is the most abused amenity in the lake, trust me. It is the most, people come from all over Southern California to fish Canyon Lake because the fishing is excellent here. And they know they can sit out there all night long on that causeway and catch fish. I just want to go through each rule a little bit, just give my opinion. There's going to be fishermen to come up here and differ with the opinion that I have, I guarantee you. In combination with the first one is about a owner in good standing with the association should be responsible for purchasing and picking up the guest fishing permit. I think that's a good idea. That means that that person, instead of the person that they called in, has to go down and secure the permit. And trust me, that would eliminate a lot of the outside permits for people that are just calling people in. So I think that's a good idea, but it may not be necessary if some of the other things are done. The second rule change in here is that people be required to wear their permits. That you eliminated the state fishing permit, but you're asking them to wear the Canyon Lake permit. That doesn't do anything. All that does is promote bad policing. And what I mean by that is this is the reason the state got rid of it. When everybody started wearing fishing permits, you don't know whose permit that guy has on or that woman has on. That could be Frank Hayworth's permit, and it's Joe Blow fishing. So if they don't actually go up and physically check the permit, they're not doing their job and it doesn't work. So having them have to display it is a bad idea, and it just promotes bad policing. I think the second one is part of the same thing. Closing the North Causeway. I personally am for closing the North Causeway. I think that that's going to take care of most of the outside fishing problems we have. That's where the best fishing is. That's where the most people congregate. They make a mess. They're there all night long fishing. It's just a bad deal. My question is, why hasn't it always been closed? Why do we have the main causeway closed? If there's a reason the main causeway is closed because of safety reasons, then it's an automatic. The North Causeway should be closed too, because you have the same thing, traffic going by, people going back and forth across. If one, why not the other? Why is the other one open? I think it's a good idea. I however think that if you can eliminate the number of passes that are going out, you won't have as big a problem on the North Causeway. So there's some of these things take care of the others and some don't, but if one causeway is closed, I think they should both be closed because you have the same problem in both places. And we do have a lot of fish being taken out of the lake. And the other rule that I am against, that you're going to find some of the other people for, is catch and release. I don't think we need to be a catch and release lake. I think once you eliminate the people that are harvesting fish out of the lake, very few people keep fish in this lake anyway. But I do have known people in the past that keep a fish or two in the lake and eat it. We have in the Eastgate launch ramp is named after a man who used to keep a couple of fish a week here. He was fished till he was 93 years old, and he'd go out there and he'd fish 5 days a week, and he'd keep a couple of fish a week. If there are other people in here that are doing that, I hate to stop them from keeping those fish. I don't think that serves any purpose. We really do have a pretty good fish population, and they're going to be doing some more planting, but the bass in here spawn very well. If we can just keep the outsiders from harvesting the fish, that would be great. And then the other regulation change in here was that I really don't like is allowing the permits to be given for up to a year. That is going to promote selling permits. I think that's another horrible idea to extend permits to a year. One of our other members had the idea that the homeowner should have to go get the permit, and it shouldn't be more than 1 to 3 days. And you can see, he's not going to keep going back there, 2 or 3 times a week for 2 or 3 people to do that. So that would slow it down also. But this amenity that we have is a great amenity. It's the reason I moved here 24 years ago, is for the fishing. And it's a great place to fish, and it's awesome, and everybody knows it, and that's why they come in here and take our fish. So, thank you very much for your time.
All right, next we have Chuck Marino, track 3846, lot 330.
Hello. I think Gary pretty much covered it all. I could sit here all night long and tell you thousands of stories. I could show you thousands of pictures of the poachers that are on the North Causeway. That's why we're asking for that to be closed permanently, temporarily, whatever you want to do. There's also some docks. Nobody could ever fish on those, but apparently one of the past boards has allowed that also. There's constantly guys out there with buckets. There's a guy and his wife that take fish, and they're stocking their own pond over in Meadowbrook. Okay, and that's pretty common knowledge. I got in a pretty close fist fight with him. Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, every single day you drive over the North Causeway, any time of the day. If you're a guest with, poaching, you will be on that causeway. I can send you all the pictures you want. I think I sent you a few this evening before I took off. Anyways, Joe Grasso is going to come up. He's got a lot to say, but thank you for listening to us. And please,
Chuck, let me ask you a question before you go. Because both of you, the man previous and yourself, have said that you'd like the North Causeway closed.
Yes.
And I understand why. I've seen all the fishermen that are there, and I understand they're mostly guests. But if we did that, we'd also be closing it to the members. Do you think that would be a problem that the members would be upset with if we closed it to everybody like that?
I do have a problem with that, because I think that maybe a couple members would be hurt. But I think we could do it to send a clear message to all the poachers, and there are a ton of them. They're posting on Instagram. There's thousands of followers, and all of them want to get in here, and they're getting in here any way they can. I mean, just take a trip over the causeway right now. You could go there, and I guarantee you'll see it. And it's a hotbed of illegal activity. This morning I was there, and you have a little Ford pickup there. I talked to the guy. I said, "Hey, you live here?" He says, "Yeah, I live here." Okay. So I see his truck over there. I knew it was his truck. And it's the same truck that I took pictures of a couple days ago. His tags on his vehicle are expired by about 4 months. He has no decal, and he has no guest permit in the windshield there. You know, I mean, and you know that we've had issues with the guest passes. I mean, we're inundated by people coming into the lake. I mean, come on, we got to get a hold of it. And, you know, this is a private gated community. This is why I bought here. Everybody moved here because of the lake. I mean, there's a lot of other amenities that we all use, but I mean, the lake is first and foremost. You know, I don't know much more to say. I mean, I could tell you stories, like I said, all night long, and pictures, and you know, I've seen 7 and 8 pound bass gutted and laying on the deck right there on the launch ramp in a Home Depot bucket. I mean, they're doing that just to throw it in our face. I mean, I think we need to send a clear message. You know, close it temporarily. Close it for a month or two. You know, it's a spawning zone. All those fish are channeled through 3 tiny tubes. Okay, all the bait, everything. So it's like fishing in a barrel over there. I mean, if those guys are such good fishermen, why are they here? You know, I mean, and as a member of the Bassmasters, you can't even take your boat over there go fishing because there's 20 guys on the darn shore. I mean, you know, this isn't a regional park. It's a Canyon Lake private gated community. Thank you.
All right, we have a lot of people that want to talk about fishing, so I just want to mention, if you feel that what you were going to say has been covered by someone that came up previously and I call your name, you can feel free to pass if you don't want to go ahead and speak. If you do, then you're welcome to speak. The next person is Stu Parks, track 3868, lot 579.
I wanted to address the enforcement issue. No matter what rules you want to adopt, if you don't enforce them, they aren't any good. So just, you've got to empower security or maybe staff up, I don't know, but you need to address that. We call from time to time even safety situations around the lake, and really nothing really happens. So that's really all I've got to say. I'll keep it brief. So if you're going to pass a rule, let's enforce it. Thank you.
All right, next we have Dave Brittenham, track 3848016.
Hi, my name's Dave Brittenham. I'm a resident of Canyon Lake and have been 25 and 30 years ago. I was a homeowner here, and then I came back about 4 years ago. And one of the problems that was a minor problem back 25 and 30 years ago was the poachers. And those are people that are here that have no business being here. And many of them are contractors or people that just know somebody and say, hey, I'm into fishing, call my name in, I'm good for a year. There's an underground network that you may or may not be aware of on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, and a couple other social media sites. They know the rules better than all of us put together. These guys are so organized. They know the rules. They know that all it takes is one phone call. You get a free pass to Canyon Lake for a year. And it's evident now that there's fishing lines going out everywhere, to the point where, you know, the limited areas that are open are covered with these, basically what we call poachers. There are some proposals, but what happens, we need to have some rules, and they need to be enforced. The problem is they know right now that there are no rules that are enforced. They'll get caught on the causeway. Somebody will come up and inspect them, and they'll say, okay, they'll be polite. They'll get in their car, go around the corner, and go down to Moonstone Beach. Or they'll go to Roadrunner Park. They know all the spots. They know every little way, the ways to get out on the condo docks. They know them better than the residents do. They really do. These guys are organized. The only thing we can do is have a set of rules that is going to prevent these people from coming out. Actually, I don't know that we have a rule that says you must fish within 50 feet of a card-carrying POA member. That isn't enforced, and that's the thing is these underground social media sites are all saying, don't worry about it. They're not being enforced. I've heard that from several of the people that I've talked to, and I've become friends with some of these people that are shore fishermen. They tell me they're an open book. They just say it's a joke. There's no security. This is not a private lake. Well, it's a small lake, and it's not, the fishing has deteriorated. There's a lot of pressure on this lake, and we have to deal with it. I did give an outline here, and I won't go through all the details, but the one thing is the North Causeway is being abused. There's trash around the tunnels. There's no reason that we're going to have, sooner or later, we're going to have a lawsuit from one of these poachers coming out there that falls in the rocks, gets bit by, in the summertime, there's snakes all over those rocks. Somebody's going to get bit by a rattlesnake and say, you guys didn't have a sign posted. Guess what? We're defending a lawsuit from an outsider. We're not going to have that issue. You'll find very, very few people, and it will affect a few people, that if we close the North Causeway. I think it's the main reason we closed the main causeway. You couldn't get near that tunnel. And we've got basically the same issue. Again, when you're thinking about passing some rules on this, we do need some rules. That's the first thing. Read through some of these ideas. They're open for discussion. This isn't a hardcore issue saying this is what we want. I mean, we're open. We just need to have some rules. I've talked to the Marine Patrol. They're saying we do what we can, but we can't. They're not writing tickets. They're telling people go ahead and leave. They just, like I said, they drive around and go to a different park, but they're not leaving. They're not leaving the lake. They know it's a joke. So we need to have some teeth in this, and that's all I'm asking, is that we review some of these things and talk about it open-mindedly. Nothing set in concrete, but I think some of these suggestions will really help. Thank you.
I would just like to say from the board's perspective, I know I'm interrupted, but I think the board understands what you're saying, and it isn't that we don't want to fix this. I think everyone on this board would say, absolutely, we need to fix this. It's getting from point A to point B that we're struggling with, and we're not sure that we're going to get all that covered tonight, where we're going to be able to resolve this. I think it's maybe part of the tabling is to come and say, maybe we need to have a longer dialogue about these issues before we start tossing the rules out. What I haven't heard from tonight is anybody that says, I want my guests to fish without me. I haven't, anybody want to come up and talk about how they want their guests to fish without them, but I hear most of the people talk about the poachers, and I'm talking, the problems. I'm not sure why we do the guest passes, and if somebody feels we need them so badly, I'd be interested in hearing, but again, the guests, I always imagine my kid's coming out 3 times a year and he's going to go fishing for a couple hours. What I'm sensing is there are people coming here every night of the year and they're fishing constantly. And I don't think that was ever the intention, that people get a free pass to our lake because they know somebody. It's your guest comes out and wants to hang out with you and fish for a couple hours. That's my image of a guest, not somebody who's using a pass to, do their major recreation in their life.
I agree with you, Dale, and I think it ties into the extremely long passes that we have. When you have the permanent guest list and someone can call someone in for up to a year, that's what they're getting somebody in here to do. They call them in for a year and then they come in every night and fish, and so it's kind of tied to that problem as well. I don't know, maybe we need to take some action to correct that as well. Next up, we have Steve Oskey, 3903, track 18.
First of all, this is the best place I ever lived.
It's great. I want to keep it that way. You guys like it too? I took a couple notes because I can read better than I can remember, but I'm going to be quick. My basic concern is, the access to the lake. And it's like the unchecked access. It's like, it's pretty much wide open for abuse, and it is being abused. No one from outside this community can come up with a bass boat or any kind of boat, go through the launch ramp, launch and fish, or past the gate and fish. You can't do that with a boat. However, you can come with a kayak, you can come with a float tube, or just about any other flotation device, come through our gate, launch it anywhere, shoreline, launch ramp, all of a sudden you're fishing. You're out there in the middle of the boats. No test required, no safety. They just show up and you fish. These devices, boats, whatever you want to call them, they're not registered. There's no stickers. They didn't go like I did through the safety course and the boat. So that's some of the abuse, that takes place. I have a video. It's on YouTube. If you just punch up, go on YouTube, and I'm not good at this stuff, so if I can find it, you guys could really find it. But you just punch in Canyon Lake fishing, you'll see a lot of videos. One video that particularly demonstrates to me and would to you is my concern. The concern is you got a couple of people, young guys, and they're talking about, hey, today's the day we're going out to Canyon Lake and we're going to fish my lake. We'll be there within an hour. They've got tubes in the back of their truck. So they're coming out here, they're fishing. They advertise on the internet or YouTube, and they have followers. I don't know if that's commerce involved in that or not. I don't know. But that's not what I thought Canyon Lake was about. That's not what I thought I was paying for. I don't want to be selfish. I want this lake. I want people to fish here. I want to see kids walking down to the lake with their fishing poles. If I see that, I just get a rush. Every time I see a kid with a fishing pole walking towards the lake, I think, God, this is great. We're turning the clock back to Andy and Opie. And that was cool. But I don't want to impede that. But like say the video, this particular video, and I would like to share it with you. They come in and they're fishing in a tunnel. And they're proud of it. They're advertising it on their website. Hey, we're here, we're fishing in a tunnel. We're catching fish. Well, hell yeah, everybody catches fish in a tunnel, but you can't fish in a tunnel. Each end of that says no fishing. No brainer. But here they're advertising. Like I said, there's a disregard, for our rules. And then what is most concerning about this whole thing, these people can come in from the outside, fish our lake, and they may be compliant with our rules and regulations. And that's a whole that we, have to close or have to fix. I just said I was going to be quick. Okay, I talked about the kids, and like I say, bottom line is, if you're going to put something in a lake, it needs to be registered. It needs to have a sticker. We have to have some kind of record. And I think the fix and control starts at the gates. North gate, east gate, main gate. That's where we can program our disciplines when you come in, through those facilities. It has to start there. You can't play catch up, after the horse is out of the barn or the boat's launched. So that's it. And one other thing before I go, I want to change subject and talk about the 4th of July. Tremendous, great, I love it. But please, as a safety concern, the East Bay is a madhouse. Everybody wants to get, as soon as the fireworks are over, after they go through the hourglass at the main causeway, they want to get down there. There's total disregard for safety, speed, and whatever. I would like you to take note or whatever and give some kind of concern for the Marine. If you could just post someone, say in the Indian Beach area, because your maintenance crew will tell you how the beach ropes are tore up, the day after 4th of July. Like I say, it just narrows down there, but total, every rule, safety rule in this lake is violated after the fireworks are over. So please think about stationing somebody there. So that's about all I got to say. Appreciate the time. Thanks for everything.
All right, next we have Ted Cole Clazier, 3718 Lot 75. Yep.
I'm not a bass fisherman. I've lived here for 38 years. I do work for Edison, or I just retired as a lineman. I go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can tell you how many times I've seen these guys coming in with their floaties and stuff, and they're unloading and putting them out. If we had decals, even on the float devices, you can stand on shore and spot them and go, hey, come here, dude, you don't have a decal, what are you doing here? But without any way of identifying the device or who they are out there, you got no control over it. And I think the North Causeway should be closed. If you got the main causeway closed, the north one, because I'm afraid some little kid's, going to be over there fishing, and he's going to run across that road. And then we're going to be in another lawsuit. I've seen enough of those here. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Verdon Lawson, track 3863, lot 284.
I'll make this short and sweet because I think most everybody's covered everything. If we can't come up with a way to only have guests fishing with a card holder, the least thing that we should do is get rid of this $20 for 10 days permit or $5 a day. If you go to Diamond Valley, it's $18 to get in and fish from shore. So how many of these guys could we get rid of that shouldn't be here if we only raised it to $15 or $18 a day? That would probably solve half the problem. So I think everybody else has covered everything else. Thank you.
All right, Joe Grasso, 3961, lot 047.
Hello. So a lot has been said this evening, and obviously you guys have been given a lot of food for thought. I think it goes without saying that obviously if we can't enforce some of the rules that we currently have in place, then they're all for naught. Rules and regulations in this community have probably not been upheld to the utmost standard in a long time concerning specifically these fishing rules and the use of our amenities. Moving forward, I think we need to take into deep consideration some of the issues of concern that have been shared here, such as the closure of the North Causeway. Some of you may or may not be aware that many years ago, the main causeway was probably the most prestigious place to fish from shore in this community. And somewhere along the line, in our infinite wisdom, we decided to close that causeway for various reasons of such I would believe would be for safety reasons, people leaving debris and trash, crossing the road at nighttime causing potential safety issues or concerns for people commuting through the community. And since we've implemented the erosion control at that causeway has been shut off to shore fishing. I think we need to take into consideration those same safety concerns that we had for the main causeway and address those to the North Causeway. Now that we've implemented the erosion control at that location and the abuse of these people coming in and fishing that causeway that are either unlicensed or not with a guest has been abused to the point where there's trash and debris, and now there's potential safety issues and or concerns with people breaking ankles, crossing the roadway at night, causing safety issues. I think you guys need to really strongly concern yes vote on the closure of that North Causeway. And as far as the residents are concerned, the ones that do fish there, I think would have an understanding as they did back in the day when we closed the main causeway as well. You know, there's a much bigger issue here when we talk about our amenities inside of the community. And I think we need to ask ourselves simple questions like, why is it a Canyon Lake POA card required to enter into our pool? I think some of the answers to that question would be to prevent overcrowding, abuse from people that aren't current residents of the community who did not pay a monthly assessment or invest their money for the privacy or use of the amenities in this community. Why are we allowing people to come in and use our lake and our parks and other amenities in this community that they did not invest in or pay a monthly assessment on. That's something moving forward that we need to take a stronger look at in consideration for the growth in the communities surrounding ours. You know, with Audie Murphy going in at a 4,200 home residency and the new development taking place off of Ethonac and Getz Road, another 4,000 plus homes, and Menifee, the fastest growing city in all of the USA, where do you think those local tweeners and friends and family are going to want to go to in Southern California, where we offer the most and best amenities anywhere to be found? They're going to want to come here. And if we don't start implementing and enforcing rules and look forward to the future of enforcing those rules, we're in for a world of hurt. Thank you.
All right, next is Travis Montgomery, track 3863, lot 10. All right. Next we have Jude Donahue, track 3868, lot 579.
Hello, and I just want to say a couple of things. I want to thank the board for putting so many improvements on all of our parks and around the community. Done a great job. Operations has been working with many people in the community, every amenity you can imagine. And they're working, I'm part of the Bass Fishing Club along with many, many other clubs. And the Kids Derby is near and dear to my heart. And I take kids out fishing from time to time. And we're trying to restock the lake because in the last few years with the fishing derby, we haven't had any crappie caught to give it a trophy for a crappie. And we haven't had very many, if any, bluegill caught. And those are all the small panfish that are being taken out of here by the buckets and in the, you know, all around and even in the North Ski area and further north than that. And people come from all over. So we're working on fish surveys. We're working on trying to figure out what's left here so we can improve the species that aren't here any longer or that are very low. And so I think that was worthy to talk about tonight because I didn't want to repeat what others have said. So with that being said, we are going to get a handle on this and hopefully we can keep stocking, but you've got to remember, the community has to remember that it's our dollars that are going into doing these surveys and doing the fish stocking. And it's all for none, again, if people are just coming and taking them out quicker and they don't even have a year or two to grow up and get big because they're small when you put them in, okay? And I think that's my one point. The other point is the gates, like all the gates, but primarily the east gate. I'm in real estate and I have sold homes in Audie Murphy. We have so many homes going in on all sides of us that the comments I get from people that I'm showing property to is a friend of a friend calls me in for 4th of July every year and they line up on the beach, okay? That's an abuse. That's another different type of abuse, but I wanted a couple seconds to say that it's a huge problem. I think that our security and our patrols have to beef it up and maybe be retrained in some areas. I also think that we should have gates with cards that open the gates like an apartment complex or an exclusive a community has so that people just can't run in and bring golf carts. They bring golf carts from Audie Murphy through. So, I mean, that's all I have to say, but I'm concerned about getting the fish back where they used to be and the security on the gates. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that is looking to keep guest fishermen to be able to go fish without being tied to a member? Is there anyone that's supporting that here tonight?
Without a member present.
Is
what you're
anyone
saying.
supporting letting someone come in to fish a guest and having them be able to do it without a member? Two of you? Okay. Well, sir, we can't do it that way. We can't have comments from the audience. Next, we have Ted Horton, track 3868, lot 149.
Thank you. I think like most residents, I enjoy fishing. I enjoy it when I have a grandson over to fish. My grandchildren are getting quite old now. I'm not always with them, so I'd like some sort of possibility of them being able to fish when they're staying with us or something like that, so that I'm not always with them. I'd like you to remember there are 3 causeways. There's the Treasure Island Causeway is equally abused. There are always fishermen there also. Like one other individual, I really do appreciate seeing young people with their poles on their shoulders going fishing. I had that opportunity when I was growing up, and I just think it's a wonderful opportunity and something that I'd love to have children be able to do. Not all of us have fishing boats. Not all of us have boats or are capable of getting out there. Perhaps we need a couple of little fishing docks at some of these areas versus just allowing them to fish off the causeway. Clearly, you need to review the entire system to control the security and control who is able to fish. I think we do need to be able to have a guest get out there on occasion without me in it with him all the time. I think we do need to have places for children to fish. They can't encroach in everyone's backyard, so they have to be able to get off the causeways or some of the common areas that we do have. Perhaps you could have some designated fishing docks.
There's a lot of good points here tonight. That's the last speaker. And part of the reason why I wanted to table this is because we have 9 changes to the fishing rules here. And I know it was discussed probably in depth, Tom can tell us, at Rules and Regs, but I don't know that the board has really had time to absorb all the rule changes here, and especially with all the comments that we've just had tonight. I think it might be in our best interest to table this to allow the board to kind of talk about this more, or maybe have a meeting with the fishermen where the board can be there as well and kind of get a better feel for this before we pass these rules. So I'd still be in favor of tabling it, but if you guys want to take these one at a time, I'm willing to do either one. I just think it might be better if we let you guys have some time to discuss it before we just vote on 9 different changes that could affect each other as well as everything else.
I agree with almost everything you said, but I think maybe it's time for a 30-day read on the North Main Causeway. I'm hearing safety issues, I'm hearing a problem. So I think if we could pull all the other ones, and while table means is we're not going to vote on it tonight, and this is a 30-day read, so we're really not even going to vote on it at all. All we're going to say is we're going to the public, and you're going to have 30 days to look at it and come back. But there's a sense of if we go through 9 rules, we pass them all, it's a convoluted process. But I think what I heard from everybody is the North Causeway is a problem. And if we go out and we put that on a 30-day read, we can come back next month and focus on that one case. So I think if we do the Causeway, leave that, table the rest of them, and maybe have additional meetings with the concerns of the members and kind of wind our way through I don't think as you said, it's complicated and things we don't know, and that's exactly why we shouldn't leap ahead and start passing rules. So, but I didn't hear anyone say the North Causeway was good to stay open. Almost everybody said it was a safety, it was a problem. Yes, members maybe had problems, but for every member that can't fish, there's members that can't fish there because other people have their lines out. So I think if we did that one and moved it ahead for 30-day reading, and then we could address the other ones later. That's mine.
I think we should amend to include Treasure Island, because I know when I'm boating, I see people fishing from there also.
Yeah, I agree.
So we need to have a motion and a second.
Whatever it is, the item P to include also Treasure Island Causeway.
All right, I'll make a motion. We approve for 30-day reading item P, prohibiting fishing from the North Causeway, and also, in addition to that, prohibit fishing from Treasure Island.
I second it.
And table the rest?
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Treasure Island Causeway.
Yeah.
Not Treasure Island Causeway.
Okay, Treasure Island Causeway. Main Causeway is already done. That's a misprint. If you go back to the page, it says North Causeway.
His motion was amended to include Treasure Island.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried for item P.
With that, I'd like to make a motion that we table items I through O and Q, again, to give the board more time to discuss these things and maybe even have a conversation with the fishermen in the community to get a better feel for what is the best thing to do and whether all of them should be done or some of them or some affect others. It'll give us more time to look at it in depth instead of making a snap decision. Anybody second? Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, Steve, that brings us to you for item R, Marine Patrol Boat Replacement.
Okay, good evening. So our boat number 3, also known as a wakeless boat, was damaged back over the summer and has become inoperable. The insurance company paid out just under $6,000 for repair to bring it back into service, but instead staff will like to replace the boat. We did give a recommendation for a inflatable Zodiac, a 17-foot. However, we've been asked to bring some other options to the table. So today I went back to the drawing board and I looked at 3 different model boats. The first model was a 17-foot Boston Whaler Montauk. Boston Whalers are kind of a Cadillac of the boats. I've actually owned 2 Boston Whalers in my lifetime and plan to own some more. Another boat looked at was a used 2009 Century. It's a kind of a walk-around fishing boat. There's a lot of fishermen here in the audience, so they'd be familiar with that type of boat. And then the last one I looked at was a brand-new Bayliner, 18-foot. They're all about the same footage, ranging between 17 and 18 feet. It's a center console, 90 horsepower Mercury. And so the prices range quite a bit. The 17-foot Boston Whaler, after the taxes and our gear retrofit we want to do, and the registration fees and other small items, comes out to $44,042.98. That's the yeah, that's Boston Whaler. The one on the screen right now is the Bayliner. No, not the video. Oh, that's the only one on there? Well, excuse me, I guess I gave you the wrong file. Okay. I'm a picture guy. Anyway, so the used 2009 Century that has a Yamaha 90 on it, it is 17 feet also. After taxes, delivery, the things we want to retrofit the boat, that's $22,773.01. And the Bayliner Element 18-foot, 90 horsepower Mercury, after trailer and everything that we want to retrofit, is $30,670.98. And I came tonight to recommend the Bayliner, the one that you see up on the screen there, and that is for the price I just listed is $30,670.98. So with that, staff recommends the Board of Directors to approve the funding in the amount of $30,670.98 with a 2.5% contingency from the Repair and Replacement Fund 02670.
So I normally go with, the one that's not as expensive, but I have other board members here telling me the Boston Whaler is definitely the way to go, that it's going to last forever. So would one of you want to make a recommendation?
I'm going to, since you've owned a couple, and my personal experience is that Bayliner as a model is more on the lower end and probably less durable, and a Boston Whaler you could probably run over with a Mack truck and it would still float. I understand and appreciate your trying to save the association money, but if it was your boat and what you were buying, what would you want to buy?
The Bayliner, or the Boston Whaler Montauk.
That's kind of what I thought you'd say. So, I mean, I'm partial to that boat too, not because of anything other than I think it's durable, and it has probably a lot longer life in our community than the Bayliner would.
That's my opinion too. I've been out in ocean seas with 20-foot waves in the Boston Whaler and felt very comfortable.
I just wanted to add real quick, Tom, you said you run over with a truck. Boston Whaler, when I was at Kidding Way, one of their ads, they had a bulldozer running over it, and then they put in the water afterwards. So.
All right, it sounds like the board would prefer to spend a little more money on the Boston Whaler, so I'll make a motion that we approve the 2018 Boston Whaler in the amount of $44,042. Was there contingency with that, Steve?
I would like a 2.5% contingency.
Was it 2.5% contingency?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, that brings us to item 6.1. Corey, Security Advisory Committee appointment.
Good evening. The Security Advisory Committee has an open position. The committee interviewed this individual last meeting, and they voted to recommend Aaron Ezraloff fill the open position. In addition to Aaron, Chuck Moreno also submitted an application. So the recommendation to the board would be to appoint an individual to serve on the Security Advisory Committee effective immediately.
I'm sorry, Corey, who are you recommending?
Aaron Ezraloff.
All right. I make a motion that we approve Aaron Ezralov for the Security Advisory Committee.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Steve, I think you're back for item 6.3, approval for excavator, or, I'm sorry, wait a minute. 6.2, Goldfield Shade Project.
Dale, Mike. So it's being requested of POA to put some more shade structures at Galt Field. And this would be going on Field 3 and 4. If you're not familiar with Galt Field, it's the Little League, or the T-ball fields. This would put 2 more shade structures, one at each field, and it would give much needed shade for friends and family to view the games. The shade structures would match the current cloth shade structures found at the other fields, and one current shade structure that is at Field 4. Bob's canvassed to the original shade structures, and we want to use them again, so we priced Miracle Playgrounds for reference. The next highest price from them was about $1,000 or $1,800 more. With the additional shade, we'd also like to add some bleachers under that shade, and we would do 2 15-foot sections under each 30-foot shade structure. And this will allow for 40 to 50 additional seat spaces at each field. So the fiscal impact would be $20,120.59 to install the shade structures, plus for 4 bleachers be $6,271.37, and that includes shipping. And we want to take this out of the capital improvement funds. So the staff recommends the board of directors approve the funding of $26,391.96 plus a 2.5% contingency from the capital improvement fund 05670 for additional shade structures and seating at Goldfield.
Is there any warranty that comes with that?
The shade structures?
Yes.
I would have to check on that. I don't have the information with me.
This is another one of those items that's been asked for a very long time from a lot of people. So, and it sounds like it's fairly inexpensive to do. So I'll make a motion that we approve $26,391.96 plus a 2.5% contingency to approve the shading for Goldfield.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to comment that the little fields are for the littlest kids, and they are the farthest from the parking lot. And when Nick was the littlest kid out there, the moms would have to take the two little kids that could barely walk. They had to take their shade cover. They had to take their chairs. So we had the moms that basically had the biggest load to carrying all their stuff to a field with no shade. The older boys, we like them too, but they got to go about a third of the distance. The shade was already there. They were right by the snack bar, so they didn't need to be snacked. So it was the moms with the littlest kids and the most burden to carry that ended up walking all the way out to a location with no shade. So I think this is very important, and this is a big deal for the little leaguers and the little kids and the moms.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Steve, item 6.3, excavator for ops.
So operations would like to purchase a piece of equipment which is commonly rented for various projects. With more and more projects being done around the community, this piece of equipment would be a valuable asset and a time saver. There's also been projects when the excavator could have been used, but it was the inconvenience of renting, having it delivered, budgetary constraints, and keeping the project on schedule that made this the renting undesirable. For example, this piece of equipment was rented for the recent shade trees that were planted at Indian Beach last week or the week before. And this last fiscal year, which just ended yesterday, we spent approximately $7,800 just renting this one piece of equipment. $7,800 in 1 year, just for all the projects we've been doing. So I would like to bring this piece of equipment in-house. We're looking at a used piece of equipment. It's a 2013 Kubota U35 excavator. The cost is $31,483.12. We're looking to take this out of the capital improvement funds. The payback for this rental, if we keep doing the projects we're doing, should be approximately 4 years. So staff recommends the Board of Directors approve funding for $31,483.12 from the Capital Improvement Fund 05670 to purchase a Kubota excavator.
Any warranty on this one?
Unfortunately, there's not a warranty on this one.
Steve, would you be able to immediately use this for the project we're doing at Holiday Harbor, the stadium area? Is that something you'd be using this excavator for, to create the stadium seating?
Most of the amphitheater and the new Marine Patrol building that's going in is going to be done by a contractor. That's what we hired them to do. However, the operations department is doing a little bit of infrastructure over there, and we will be using this piece of equipment there.
All right. Any other discussion from the board?
My comment is we looked at the erosion control project around the lakes. If you look at our beaches and they're kind of eroding away over time, and we need to get riprap located on the beaches to keep them from kind of eating away. And we put sand out a couple times a year, and then the river just takes the sand, takes it over the dam, puts it at the bottom. This excavator would be a very good tool for us to do that ongoing, which really is going to almost forever project of continuing to place the riprap to protect our shoreline. So I think this equipment would be used often, and it would pay for itself. That's my comment.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve $31,483.12 from Capital Improvement Fund to purchase excavator for the Office Department, a 2013 used excavator.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Which brings up to pump track CIP funding. Steve?
Okay, so this is something that's been worked on the past almost a year. FRC has done a lot of research and looking at different parks and talking to vendors and doing research. A couple months ago, they asked me to bring it to the board and to have a design done. Lane, if you would bring up the video. It's been requested for this pump track to be built in the Can Lake, and many sites were considered possible locations. But what FRC was trying to do was find something very centrally located. And like I mentioned before, a couple months ago, the Board of Directors approved design for pump tracks at Sierra Park West and North. And both sites have pros and cons. The pros for Sierra Park West as existing amenities, meaning bathroom, water fountains, that kind of stuff. It's centrally located, and there'd be little grading to be done. The cons, it's a very small space. The track is limited. It's approximately 330 linear feet. Last month, the board asked if that could be extended. Working with the designer, they didn't feel that was possible. Then if we ever wanted to make this a lit track, we would have to bring electrical in, which is far from the existing bathroom building, which is probably about 300 yards away. Sierra Park North pros is it's a larger track. The length's approximately 520 feet. And the park has room for stadium seating with shade covers. It's centrally located. It brings more activity to this park, and it could be done in a phase development. Oh, there's music. So the cons is the Sierra Park North there's nothing there. It's dirt. It's tumbleweeds. There's no restrooms, drinking fountain, anything. It's just there's nothing. The electrical, water would have to be brought in. Meters would have to be installed. Sewer would have to be brought in and installed, at a lot higher cost. The third option, instead of going with Sierra Park West or Sierra Park North, would to send this back to the committees and look at other locations. Now, there was an attachment from FRC to recommend Sierra Park North, and mainly their recommendation was to do this because of the cons that I listed. It's a larger area for track. We could use that park for other things, bring picnic tables in, barbecues. Also, it could be done in a phase development, and maybe not bring in some of the utilities right away. So the fiscal impact for Sierra Park West, the base price is a little over $180,000. We'd have to put in a little over $7,000 for drainage and irrigation, and about $9,500 for concrete walkway to extend the walkway that's there to the park. The estimated total would be $197,401.50. Sierra Park North, the base price is about $280,000. But we'd have to do substantial park upgrades. And so I did a little bit of engineering construction estimates on the park, and that would be about another approximately $425,000 in additional cost. And that would bring the total cost for the project, if it wasn't phased, to roughly $700,000. The fiscal impact on the third option, sent back to committees, is obviously zero.
My question would be, is that like a minimal upgrades at North? Because when we talked about it before, when we walked it, you said you thought it would be around $700,000 or $800,000 in additional cost.
But to be honest, I might have meant that there was a total $700,000 to $800,000, but when we were just walking it, running the cost in my head, it could have been just high.
Okay.
I would try not to give you a low figure, and then we go to build it, and you go, Steve, what happened? You told me it was going to be low.
Okay.
So the question is, do we know what it would be just to put the track in Sierra Park North with a basic porta potty, and what I'm talking about is obviously phasing in the project over a period of time, get the pump track set up out there, put some porta potties, and then continue to develop the park. It's a fair amount of money, but we have about 5 acres of land that just sits there and it's basically a dust bowl. Nobody uses it for anything. We dump some shavings and some things we use for maintenance, but we have a 5-acre park that's never going to be used for anything. It's a great place for walking trails, for dog parks. It would not only be a place for this pump track, but there's also places for the kids to ride the bike. It is, if any of you don't know Sierra Park North, it is a huge park. It is probably 5 or 6 acres, and it has potential to provide a lot of different amenities inside that 5 acres. So if we can put the first piece on and then over years continue to upgrade the park, I think this piece would make a decent anchor. One of the issues is Sierra Park West on the lake is pretty tiny. It's used quite a bit for families and picnics. It would be a push to put it in there. It would impact the neighbors. Sierra Park North is much bigger. You could probably get the track 250 feet from the neighbors' decks, whereas in Sierra Park West, they're basically the track will be 40 or 50 feet up off their deck. I'm kind of estimating the numbers, but you're going to be sitting on your deck looking, you'll be able to see the label on the guy's jacket versus 250 feet away. And so the FRC took a long time to look at long-range planning. We had a wish list of probably over 100 items. And one of the things we talked about is we just don't want to, put one thing at a time without some picture of how the rest of the amenities will fit in. And we're not going to build all our wish list in 2 years. It's not going to happen. But when we're going to start doing our wish list, we would want to start at least locating the park information or the pieces so that they fit in some bigger picture. And also going to look at other locations is also an option. But that's just my thoughts.
For me, I've always been the guy that says I'm going to do what the people ask me to do. And they've asked for the bike pump track, but I haven't heard anybody ask me to build a new park to put it in. And it's an awful lot more cost at North to build another park. And to me, we could build it for the $197,000 at West, and then we could use that extra money to build splash pads for the kids and the sound wall at Eastport. And, that CIP money could be spent on a lot of other things that are being asked for by the people instead of building out a park that the people are not asking for. So my preference would be Sierra Park West. We have a lot of people that want to talk on this. So I'll open it up to the people that want to talk about the pump track. First one is Marha Kid, track 3778, lot 201.
Okay, first, I just want to acknowledge how grateful I am to the POA board members and their support for this project. President Paul, you led the way, and Director Phil, you took the time to accompany me down to Lake Elsinore. We met with their recreational manager of the city. We had a meeting. Thank you for your time. Thanks to POA GM Eric and Operations Steve, the Recreation Facilities Review Committees, and as a very special thank you to our representative from the BMX Bike Pump Track Group, Willie West, who worked with the Facilities Review Committee. So, okay, being one of 12 kids, it is my nature to not waste money and also to get the most for your money. Living here since 1989, I've seen a stockpile of projects that were never fulfilled, although I can actually say I have more faith now with Eric and Steve. They seem to be an awesome team with the right backgrounds, not political, and just do their jobs really well. I know that there are projects that are still desired, like the never-ending bathroom at Roadrunner, the sound and security wall around Eastport, and let's see. I also know that a big desire is new sand at the beaches. I think that's really important. I hear about the parks having the wood chips. I know that the parents would like that replaced. And so I do feel that we have other projects that need to be addressed, although I do appreciate the bike pump track for our kids. It was supported by all 5 directors. Now it's just the location, and that needs to be decided. And not being wasteful, we have a giant, non-used, existing Sierra Park. Yaya, who was on Social Network, said, "I wish there were things to do there." Yes, if you're willing to spend $800,000 to $1 million to develop a park across the street, I would ask why. We have a park. Take that money to develop Sierra Park and give it some activities. That's what parks are for. That's why it was put there in the first place. We spoke of a desire for a family-friendly park at the activities and the recreation committee level. We all spoke about that. I said, let's not waste money and give this community a park where families can really enjoy their time together. Wouldn't it be fabulous? In addition to the pump track, add that very desired, very desired splash pad that everybody's asking for, a couple basketball half courts, some tether balls, a walking exercise path around the whole perimeter of the park, throw a football, have a barbecue, do whatever you want. Okay, you can even pull up on your boat there, which is adding to your family amenities, and you still have the beach for your sunbathing daughters. The family-friendly park, that's what I'm all about, not wasting money. Take that money and make that park useful. Okay, Mom gets to do whatever she wants. What a great gathering place. For those that might be affected, I am very sorry you chose to live by a park. I would love the activities around me. The bike pump track is not noisy at all. It's actually pretty quiet. Go down to Lake Elsinore and check it out. However the vote goes down tonight, I support it. Let's just get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Marha. Next, we have Kathy Mitchner, track 3868, lot 160.
Hi there. I just want to tell you, you did a great job, Paul, this last time, with getting the front gate and the different things you did. And I was very sad when I saw all the things that you posted about feeling like you failed, because you really did a lot for the community. And Dale, thank you for serving on there. But as far as the pump track goes, I'm on the Recreation Committee, and we've all agreed that we really do want the pump track, and a lot of people. But I don't agree with it at Sierra West. There's not enough room. It'll have to go at the smaller size, which the amount of kids that we have here, the smaller size won't serve our community, and really it will just cause more problems at that location. I would ask that you please do whatever it takes to look at more, have us go out and look at more locations. And I do kind of agree with North, although I do kind of agree with spending that kind of money at one time, so maybe piecing it out. But there's other locations that we've talked about that aren't listed on this, and I know that there's reasons, and the committees know it, but maybe put together more of a presentation to show other people why we chose different areas or why we talked about different areas. I know that some of the board members and I have walked through every one of the parks and wrote down notes, and we've been talking about this for a really long time, and as much as I want that particular thing because I have grandkids that would love it, I really think that Sierra West isn't the place for it, and there's other places we maybe could put it for closer to that amount without going to Sierra North, although I personally would love to see Sierra North talked about growing at some point, because I don't know about you, but I'm not getting any younger and I'd like to see it. So anyway, thank you and have a good night.
All right, next we have Donna Lovejoy, track 3720, lot 94.
Thank you for listening to me. I just wanted to let everybody know that I know the board members have received a lot of letters from people in Sierra Park West who didn't know this was going on and that we were even considered as a location. And we do not consider that an underutilized park because we live there. We see who actually uses the park. And we see that it is utilized as much as Indian Beach and Holiday Harbor, but it's utilized different. It's utilized by a family. And families come out there. They do birthday parties. They do reunions. They have people on the beach swimming. They picnic. They play Frisbee golf at night. Usually it's in the later evening when they play the Frisbee golf. All during the week, all our contractors in Canyon Lake come there, and that's where they eat their lunch. You know, the park gets used. So when I keep hearing about how it's underutilized, I don't understand that, because I actually live there and I know what's used and what isn't used. And to put a pump track 10 feet from somebody's back fence just is not reasonable. I mean, setback for the POA is 25 feet, and you're going to put something 10 feet from somebody's property? I don't get it.
Steve, I don't think it's going to be that close. Is it
have another?
supposed to be 10 feet off of somebody's property?
No, the one at Sierra Park West was not 10 feet. I believe it was measured about 18.
18?
Well, we looked at it and we measured it at 10 feet. It's right on his back fence. In other words, if somebody went around that corner and it doesn't have some kind of fence there, they can go into his yard.
Lynn, would you mind scrolling down a little bit?
You know, how would you be like, this gentleman
Keep
just
scrolling,
moved to his
please.
house 6 months ago. How would you like to
keep
all of a
scrolling.
sudden have this in
Keep
your
scrolling.
back fence?
Keep scrolling one more, right there.
See his fence? It's right there. There's no trees, there's no obstruction, nothing. You miss that corner, you can be in his yard. And it's just, you know, we agreed to live in a park, but we did not agree to live at a pump track or a sports park. Totally different concept. If we were going to have that kind of amenities at our park, you should not have built houses right above it. And I mean, we're not like 50, 100 feet above it. We're just right there. I hear all the conversations that go on in the park. So we're not very far from the park. So you should never have built houses there if you're going to use this park for something different than what it was actually used for. And it is utilized for what it is. You know, it is a park. Go there every weekend. The parking lot is full of cars because the people are there. So I just don't get it. It makes no sense. It cannot grow. It can't do anything. So I have all the regular reasons that everybody else doesn't want the park there, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And we're not even discussing how every single time it rains, it floods right where you have part of that track. But that's because I've lived there for 14 years, but I don't know. But you who've looked at it once or twice knows.
Sorry. Next we have Perry Biggs, track 3720, lot 94.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for hearing me out. I live on Sierra Park as well, and Sierra Park West, and I would like to ask you guys to please consider looking at Sierra Park North or another location for the pump track for a variety of reasons. If it's just to save money, I don't think it's a smart move to cheap out and just stick a small amenity and shoehorn it into a small space and then cause everybody to gather in that one area right behind someone's house. My neighbor down the road is very concerned about it. My second issue or concern is, like my wife said, we live at the park. We see what goes on. About once or twice a month, I get a drunk peeing on my fence right behind my house while I'm sitting on my deck. There's supposed to be no bottles on the beach. There's beer bottles everywhere. They have big parties down there, and they throw the beer bottles into the neighbors' yards. So having more and more condensed people and activities, I just don't think it's a good idea in that space. I would ask you to please consider Sierra Park North as a potential, it could be an excellent sports park type of a venue. So I don't think Sierra Park was ever designed to be a sports park, Sierra Park West. It was more of a family picnic park and beach, and I'd like to see it preserved that way. And one of my neighbors put together a little petition thing. I have about 25 signatures in these booklets. There's one for each of the board members, if you guys care to take one. And we have the support of our neighbors and would appreciate your guys' consideration for our quality of life. Thank you.
Next, we have Dan, you're going to have to forgive me, Dan Fitzgeraldo, track 3720, lot 102.
Hello, my name is Dan Fitzgerald. I live on Green Pine Drive, and my concern is Sierra Park North, I believe it is. And now I'm not going to talk to the Sierra Park West people because, but anyway, I called a real estate agent, one of the top agents, and I asked her what the impact would be to the value of our house. And she kind of laughed and said, it would definitely go down. Definitely. And she said, you might have an occasional buyer that has children that wants to play there, but she goes, mainly your value is going down. And we have 26 homes there. I don't know if you've studied the impact of that. This area that was described as a tumbleweed area is a sensitive issue to us because I've been there for 20 years. And I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy the peace and quiet. I'm a realist. I realize that it'll be developed someday. I'm hoping it's not developed into a sports park or a pump track or anything like that. I'd rather see some more natural, more aesthetically pleasing amenity there. And it is centrally located, somebody said. It's centrally located right in the middle of a bunch of steep hills. And this park is going to be a magnet to every kid on a bicycle. We've had one death there already, if you're familiar with that. He unfortunately drove down Green Pine Drive and couldn't stop and plowed right into a car on vacation. And I think we're going to have bikes all over. That site has slopes all around it. I think you're just asking for trouble. I don't think it's a good idea, this type of park. And like I said, you know, we know someday something's going to be there. I just wish it would be something that wouldn't devalue our houses, that would, an amenity should enhance things. And I'd like to see something there that enhances the value of our homes and the whole community, but especially our homes. There's about 26 homes that are going to be directly impacted by this. And looking at it, and I don't know if you're thinking of a night and lights and all that, but you know, it doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. Next, we have Ted Horton, 3868, lot 149.
Well, when I was on the board, the pump track was certainly being considered, and we were going through the long-range planning process, looking at the various pieces of property that we had available. Sierra Park North was the largest and most logical spot to perhaps put it at that time in our consideration. At that time, I proposed that we have a significant grading plan prepared for that particular piece of land, and a review process that goes around and perhaps adds the additional screening that could perhaps give residents the buffering that is needed to buffer the use from the residents. I think we've stuck with an amenity that if we're going to build it, it's going to be in somebody's backyard and somebody is going to be upset. And I appreciate that, because I would be upset if it were in my backyard. However, but I think Sierra Park West is the only large piece of property available to us at this time, and with the appropriate planning, perhaps these issues can be somewhat mitigated. I'd like us also to remember that when we moved here a little less than 20 years ago, we've added about 2,000 additional residents. We've added no additional parks at all. Yes, we've done some work on our parks, but we haven't added any more land available to us. It's time to develop that particular park. It's time to think about it very appropriately. It's time to theme it. And also, I don't like to see the idea of more waterfront park being taken for something that doesn't focus on our water. That's the place for splash pads, water uses, etc. Sierra Park West would be much more logical for those things than any other area in my mind. So you've got a tough one to work out. Get a large landscape plan and take a good look at what you can do grading to ameliorate some of the problems that you're going to have associated with it.
I think you're referring to Sierra Park North when you said to develop the park. You said Sierra Park West to develop the park. Yeah, I just want to clarify you meant north.
Next, we have Debbie Perry, track 3720, lot 237.
First of all, I want to thank the community members that have been involved in the process of the pump track. This is a perfect example of when we see a need for something, we come together with ideas and make it happen. I want to thank all the committees for all their diligent work and research and listening to the community's opinions and working out all the details. This has been going on for many months, not just the past few days. And I want to thank the board, even though it hasn't been voted on yet. And as with all projects, I know that a lot of work has been done to investigate this, insurance, designs, etc. In my opinion, the only logical place for the track is Sierra Park West. I'm not sure of the exact location that has been chosen, because obviously if it backs up to someone's backyard, that might not work. But we already have parking, restrooms, electrical, and everything there. And it's big enough to accommodate a track. At this time, we don't have to put out a lot of extra money, just the track expenses. I understand some members who board of the park have expressed concern, but we have to do what is good for the majority of the community. The parks were implemented as a place that all community members can enjoy, and this is just one more amenity to add to that. If you're concerned, you should check out the pump track at Elsinore. It's a very low-key park. There's not a lot of noise. It's not a skateboard park or a BMX track. There's a big difference in what a pump track is in comparison to the other tracks. Again, a lot of work and research has been done on this project, and it's not just an idea that popped up on social network to debate. All of the questions and ideas that were brought up on Facebook last night have already been researched and answered. It's frustrating when so much time and effort has been put into something that is good for the community, and at the last minute, people who weren't involved in the process want to vote negative opinions. If we put everything to a vote to the community, nothing would get done. Not everyone in the community votes, as we know with our election process. This is why we have committees and meetings. Just like anything, if you want your opinion to matter, you must get involved. Again, thank you to the board, Paul Queen, Dale Welty, Mike Harris, Phil Hawgood, and Tom Nathan. Thank you to Alex Cook and the Recreation Committee, and to Steve Liebring and the Facilities Review Committee. They listened to a lot of the members, voiced a lot of different opinions, and they took everything into consideration. And to just name a couple of the community members involved, Marha Kidd and Willie West, thank you. Thank you.
All right, next we have Marvin Webster, track 3720, lot 93. Okay. Next we have Doug, I can't ever pronounce your last name. You know who you are, Doug. Track 3846, lot 244.
Great. Thank you. I'm Doug Gorvetzi, and I'm the current chair of the Facilities Review Committee. I've also been involved in all of the discussions Facilities Review Committee has had on the pump track since the beginning of the conversation when Steve Liebrings was the chair. I would like to just point out that the committee did look, we made a base assumption as we were going into this that most users of the park, certainly not all, but most users of the park would be arriving on bike and having the park put at a place that's not centrally located was not particularly attractive. So we did talk about locations like Eastport and other locations that were in Outrigger Park and locations that were not centrally located. And we thought it made more sense because most riders would arrive by bike to make it in a place that was centrally located. And so we looked at several locations. One of the locations was Sierra Park East. It was eliminated by the vendor because the soil was not appropriate for the facility. If you look at the base prices for the two parks, the reason there's a difference in price is because Sierra Park North simply has more room to put a larger pump track. So when we talked to the vendor, we said, look, give us what you believe, right? You guys do this all the time. We've got one of the world's experts on design who was the owner of the company that did the designs for us. We said, give us what you think is the best and appropriate pump track for these locations. And what they gave us for Sierra Park West was the best they could do that would fit in that space. It is a space-constrained location, period. Sierra Park North does give us the ability to put in a larger park, a park that the experts are telling us is a better park. It also has room to provide a separate beginners area, which we did not have room to do in Sierra Park West. And the value of that is it allows a place where little kids who are just getting used to this can be in a separate location, co-located, but not the same track as experienced riders and teenagers who are more likely to do tricks. So for safety and comfort and peace of mind for parents that are just getting their kids involved in these, we thought it made sense to provide the ability to put in a separate loop or a separate track for them. Sierra Park North has that ability. I'm not here to advocate for Sierra Park North. I want to point out that I believe the entire park does not have to be built right now. I believe we could just do, as Dale was talking earlier, put in the pump track and put in just those things that are legally required, ADA access. If we need to put in restrooms or not restrooms, porta potties, we can put that in. There's been talk about parking. I don't quite see the need for that because most people I think are going to arrive on bike and there is parking along the street. But if there is the need for parking, we could do a minimal parking lot right now and leave it. I don't think we need to spend $700,000 now to get this amenity in. I believe Sierra Park North gives us space to grow, and I believe Sierra Park North can support other bike-related amenities like bike trails, BMX. There's enough space there, and there's enough hilly space to be able to do other bike-like amenities and keep bike-like amenities co-located. Again, we can look at other facilities. It was picked because there were, in our belief, strong value propositions for that location. Sierra Park West, I love the park. I think it's beautiful. I love the fact that it's all built out, but I don't think it's the right location for this facility. The primary reason is space constraint. The second reason is there is going to be some noise. Of course, it's not going to be as loud as some other types of facilities, but there is going to be some noise. My strong objection here is just the aesthetic. If something happens that we have to fence this thing, if it turns out that kids are using it late at night and we have to fence this in order to constrain its use, or if a future insurance company says we want this fence so that way we can control who's using it or when it's being used, if this facility right in the middle of this park has to have a 6-foot fence around it, I think it's going to be ugly. I don't particularly love the look of it anyway, because it's got, you see it.
Doug, you're over your time.
I apologize. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, next we have John Stelzner, 3778, Lot 9.
Thank you. Could we put the slide up for Sierra Park West again? I wanted to point out a couple things here that I happened to notice that I have a laser pointer with me, and I don't know if it's going to work well. But there's a property line fence here. If you go up a little bit, can you put tape down? Yeah. See this property line fence here? That goes across. This person does not have a property line fence. So it's basically right across this area. Also, I want to point out that this area here has a tendency to flood during heavy rains. There's also over in this area, there's actual park playground equipment. I just am not in favor of, if I can be in favor of a special thing, of not having it in Sierra Park West. We bought in here in '86, and my kids were heavy bicycle riders. I have two sons, rode the bike all the time. Unfortunately, we didn't have anything, and somebody brought up a pump track last year, and I think it's a great idea. The community here is, we have so many parks that are not utilized, and I think that not using this park for this pump track is a good idea. One of the things, we used to go to Sierra Park. I remember I've been going to meetings extremely regularly, almost religiously, since the early 2000s. And one of the things was somebody brought up the fact, and I believe it was either the staff or the board, that Sierra Park is the #1 used park in the community. Number 2 is Indian Beach. I remember that. But Sierra Park, we used to go down there. During the summer, it's impossible to park down there. And that was years ago. We don't use it anymore. You can drive by it on weekends during the summer, and the park is loaded with people. There's parties going on, the birthday parties, there's all kinds of activities. It's a family park. And I think putting the pump track in is just too much. I especially like what Dale made as a presentation about starting to utilize another area of land and building in the future. This is just a start. But if you put the park away, there's a certain thing about, you just can't have a field and feel that that's your field behind your house. These parks, there are a lot of vacant parks right now. And when you buy against a park, there's the possibility it's going to be developed at one time. Anyway, I thought I'd like you to not consider Sierra Park West. Thank you.
All right, that's everybody.
Excuse me?
What do you guys?
Marvin was able to get back again. Can he speak?
I had another meeting to go to, Marvin Webster. Yes.
Are you going to be saying something different? We've had almost 30 minutes of people talking about this. I realize you haven't been here, but I think this has been pretty much talked out. All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't have my track number or lot number with me. Like all of the PO board members, I think most, if not all of us here tonight, think that the pump track is a nice idea for the kids, but also like the POA board members, we don't want it in our backyard. There are really only 2 locations that are not surrounded by homes that should be under consideration, and they are Eastport Park and Galt Field. Eastport Park is the #1 choice of locations because of its distance from many homes in Canyon Lake. At Eastport Park, you have a 50-foot wide by 250, 300-foot long dirt area, currently just a pile of dirt along and below Getz Road. This dirt strip would be more than adequate for a pump track and maybe even could accommodate a second smaller track, as has been discussed. In addition to those 2 tracks, there might also be room for a skate park, which would appeal to the teenagers and adult skaters and bike riders. It could be like the one they have over in Lake Elsinore on Palomar Street. The appeal of Eastport Park location is that parking is right next to the potential building site, so it is convenient for parents and grandparents who would be bringing their young kids there to ride. It's also a good consideration for the ADA access. The other attraction for this location are that water, electricity, and restrooms are already there, saving the cost of bringing them in. In addition, it is a flat plot of land which keeps construction costs down. None of the parking spaces would have to be lost. Another factor that makes this a prime location is that there are no homes backing up to that side of Eastport Park. There are homes across Getz Road and Audie Murphy Branch, but with the automobile traffic present, it would mask the noise from the park, and the road puts space between the pump track and the homes there, so there's little to no additional intrusion on their privacy. Another favorable factor for East Point Park is that the friends coming from outside of Canyon Lake to use the pump track would not have to ride through the community since it's located right next to the east gate. This will happen because it's currently happening with fishermen. I was talking to someone this morning, a lone fisherman this morning who lived outside of Canyon Lake, and his friend calls him in but does not go fishing with him. If it happens with fishing, it's also going to happen with the pump track. I understand this location is not favored because of the possible dredging plans for the lake and processing of the dredged mud and loading into large trucks to be hauled away. Is there any other location where this dredged mud could be processed? If Eastport Park can't be chosen as the best alternative, then the best alternative location is Gulf Field. This location saves money because, again, water, lighting, and restrooms are already there. It's even a snack bar during some months of the year. All that would be required is to build a pump track on the flat, grassy land between the softball fields there. Nighttime lighting is already in place. The POA should have to abide by its own rules. When someone buys a lot in Canyon Lake today and wants to build a home, they are required to contact every home around that vacant lot to inform them about the home they want to build. Shouldn't the same courtesy or requirement apply to projects that the POA wants to install in current neighborhoods? I was disappointed that no one in the area was contacted regarding the installation of the pump track in the 3 Sierra Parks. Thank you.
All right, guys, we have 3 options, north or west, or sending it back to the committees and see if we can find a location that would be happier.
Well, I've got, I guess, a couple things I want to sort of talk through. I'm sure that Eastport and Sierra Park West were probably pieces of land at some point in time, and eventually we decided we're going to develop them. And as we did that, Eastport probably first became a launch ramp, and then it added a basketball court, it added a dog park, and it added pickleball courts, and it developed over time. But there's only so much space, and eventually you have to start saying we have to go someplace else. Sierra Park, I'm sure, is the same. It was probably originally a park with a beach, and maybe they added the dock, and they added the picnic benches, and then they added the playground, and again, it's been developed outward. And I think developed to the point where we probably are at a pretty good capacity for that particular piece of land. Now, whether it's Sierra Park North or some other location, I think the cost that we talk about shouldn't be assigned to what it costs for a pump track, but just the cost that we're going to start developing this new park and this new piece of land that ultimately will be the seed that starts being able to now develop more things in that particular area. So like we heard about bike trails or in that particular piece of land, we could really start investigating and building other things, but the pump track would just be that first thing that gets in there, and it starts the development of having a parking lot, having the water, having the restrooms, and now everything else just kind of gets added on. But not, I don't want to blame the pump track as being the reason that it was $800,000 or $700,000. It's just an investment in developing this park, and as been brought up tonight, we have this piece of land that's sitting there, and it's just nothing is happening with North. And it's not to say again that North has to be the location, but at some point in time we have to sort of jump off the cliff and say we're going to do something with this piece of land, and we're going to develop it, and we're going to make it another thing for this community. So whether it's North or some other location, I think it's more important to put it in the right place than it is to rush to just put it in the place that we think we can do it the fastest and the cheapest. I mean, we spend some money on a better boat because we think it's going to be better for the community, and I think that the same thing would apply here, that if we're going to do it, let's make sure we do it in the right location and make it so that it's going to be long-term, the right decision, and if it costs us more money, that's okay. It's just seed money getting us to develop a new park.
The Sierra Park West location is, in my mind, going to have the most significant impact on the people around the park, because that pump track, as John pointed out, if you continue that fence line over, that pump track's 10 feet on the other side, outside somebody's fence. If you're sitting on your patio, you're going to be nose to nose with the pump track. And on the holidays, all of our parks are empty tonight. Go out and walk them all. They're all empty. They may be one or two people. But you come to our parks on Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and they're full. Especially that Sierra Park is a beautiful park. It has a nice feel. It has kind of a say. The worst place to put it, in my mind, would be Sierra Park West. There was other discussions about Galt Field, if we could figure some way to get it there. That has amenities, that has some advantages. Eastport, because the demand of the future is going to be very difficult to do there. And Sierra Park North, I understand it'll impact the owners, but the impact on those owners will be significantly less than the impact of the owners at Sierra Park West. From what I could see from the map, that instead of being 10 feet from somebody's property line, it's probably going to be 140 feet from people's property line. And most of the homes up above there are 50 feet above the track. They're not going to look out their window and see it. They would most of the part have to walk over the edge. So the worst impact on our members is going to be Sierra Park West, and that's pretty clear. I don't think you could say that's not an option. And nobody wants the pump track, and nobody wants the dog parks. Nobody wants any of that in their backyard, and I understand that. But the community as a whole really has a right to have basic amenities, and to choose the one park or the most devastating impact on the members is just to save a couple of dollars is just inappropriate for me.
Well, I'm glad just a couple of dollars. I think we should put the park where we can afford to put it. I think we should be fiscally responsible. But what I'd like to really ask now, it's come to that point, Eric, what has come of the idea that I talked to you about? Can you give me some update?
Yeah, I can. And Steve and I have talked about it, and it's physically possible, construction-wise, to put a culvert pipe in the flood control channel there and put dirt over. It's feasible. However, I'm looking through this packet that was handed to us, and Sandra Tiberio brings up actually a good point that we hadn't considered in our brief conversations about this. And she states that there is a flood control channel, just so everyone knows what we're talking about. There's a flood control channel there, and there was an idea floated, what if we cover that and put some fill dirt there and push this away from people's homes and make more room. There is real estate there to do that, but you'll see if you look for her comment in here, Sandra Tiberio, she says, and I don't know whether this is valid, this just came to my attention, so yes, it's feasible, but logistically we have to look into this statement. There is a flood control channel that runs through the north end of Sierra Park. It is a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer entity. Each city or county must something, I can't read the writing. When the dog park was suggested to be built in that area, the Corps of Engineers said they wouldn't allow it. So if any of that's true, then maybe not. So that would take some further investigation. So I wouldn't count on that real estate being available right this minute until there are many flood control areas in the country that are regulated, like a Blue Line Creek, regulated by the Corps of Engineers. And if this falls in that criteria for some reason, then probably not.
Wouldn't we also be in that same boat on North Sierra Park?
To my understanding, it's not North Sierra Park is not in the bottom of the hole up on the hill, right?
Well, the water has to come from up to down.
No, but that's sheet drainage. Typically, the
Do we
Corps
have
of
any
Engineers.
estimates on the grading up there?
Can we look at that picture?
I think what Eric's saying, it's about, part of it is sheet, part of it is the drainage for the Army Corps of Engineer. I think it's a little bit of both. And I think this kind of brings to a point, if we don't know where the flood line is, we don't know where it is in Sierra Park North, we probably don't know where it is in Sierra Park West. It seems like before we commit, we should go to the appropriate cities and we should go to the appropriate people and find out what the requirements are going to be. I mean, we're going to spend $170,000 and all of a sudden we find out that we can't build it. It seems to be not prudent to do proper due diligence to make sure wherever we put it is not in a location that's in a floodplain.
I don't know who mentioned the creek, but I see the creek you're mentioning down in the bottom where the vegetation is, but I was referring to sheet drainage where they show the track being located. I don't see a creek there. Right where this track is? Okay. I guess I need to go walk that.
I would suggest that you do look into the local agencies, determine whether or not it's in the floodplain, and get their approval one way or the other before you make a decision.
I agree. I agree with Howard and Dale. I think that's the prudent thing, and it would also give us time to look at some of these other areas. Galt Field was mentioned, which is a flat area. If there's actually room for it there, it has all the amenities already there as well, and it's a flat area. It might be someplace where it could be put in for not as expensive a cost as well. So it'd give us time to check out the floodplain issues as well as whether other locations might be more acceptable.
I think the level of complaints at Galt Field, other than if they need the fields and they need the space, that's one thing, and we'll have to deal with that question. But as far as the community being upset, they're already used to the big lights. They're already used to all that. So it's worth looking into.
Well, with all that said, and it sounds like I think we have agreement on that, I'll make a motion that we table the pump track location. Well, wait a minute. Should we approve a funding amount without picking the location, or should we put it all off until?
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to make a motion that we table the pump track funding and location until we do a little bit more research.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
All right, brings us to member comments, part of the meeting. I'll remind everybody, I know it's election season. Please, this is a POA board meeting. We're not here to discuss election issues or the campaign. Just keep it to the actual POA issues. There's no personal attacks, and you are limited to 3 minutes, so try and remember your time when you're speaking and not go over 3 minutes. Our first, Why? Well, you can go. There's one right back there. First up is Art Femister, track 3719, lot 315.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's an early evening, huh? On that, so this will be easy since you've been getting hammered all night on that. First, Paul, I want to congratulate you on your early retirement on that. I wish you and Stacy the very, very best on that, and also to give a shout out to all the unsung heroes of the board members, whether they be male or females, and that's their spouses. They're like having a husband who's a police officer and off at all times and whatever, and not sure when they're going to come back and everything. So shout out to Stacy and whatever on that, and to all the other future ones. All right, so we'll make this real quick on that. What I wanted to talk to you about real fast on here was just last year everybody did a great job, staff and everybody, on reducing the speeding inside the community with the tens of thousands of dollars, whatever it was, on the radar trails and everything, that's great. But the one area that we're still lacking in is the Marine Patrol on the East Bay. I looked at the contract that we put out for RFP at the number of hours that they're supposed to be out there every day. And we're lacking so far off. I mean, according to this, the number's a little off. It showed starting at 6 in the morning. I think they were starting at actually 8 in the morning. So based it on the 12 hours, 8 to 8, it's been going downhill, and that's what concerns me about that. The purchase of the Boston Whale was a great idea. That's a fantastic boat. I'm thrilled to see that. But if we don't have the staff for it, it's not going to do any good. So if we look at the month of January, based on the hours that the Marine Patrol gave us on that inside your agenda, I didn't make this up, as of January, they had 343 hours. They only did 36% of what we're contracting them to do, hours-wise. February, that went down to only 23% of the time they were supposed to be out there, they were down. In March, they're only out there at 19.7% of the time. That should have been 744 hours. They only did 147 hours in March. And again, this is what's in your agenda tonight. I'm not making this up. So the trend is not good. We're about 25 days away from the start of the boat season and the summer and the official kickoff and everything, and the trend is heading down. It's just not a good situation. But the end result of that, if you look at inside the agenda also tonight, there were 0 citations written. I'm not for writing citations to my fellow members on that, but if you're grossly over speeding inside there, throwing a big wake, and you've been warned, you should get it. I think Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles could staff those boats and write more tickets than them because he wrote 0 tickets. I mean, how could you not see what's going on out there? And this kind of comes back to the fishing thing everybody talked about. If you let it keep going on and nothing happens and we watch it. I mean, some of my peeps over there, and I think one back there that live on the main channel of the East Bay, we watch this. We see the boats, the Marine Patrol's there. They don't even say slow down. Boats go past them 10 miles an hour, throwing bigger wake than they should, no warning. And then they think it's okay. The next guy does it, and it kind of festers from there. The other problem we're starting to see early this year, and I think some of my friends to the left here can probably get this even more than I get on that, is the loud music. There's one boat in particular, looks like it was decorated by Barbie. They've got 6 speakers on it, and it's the F word and the N word being blasted rap music over that. You know, I've got my granddaughter over there, 2 years old, goes, "Daddy, what's a N? What's F mean?" That's not good. I mean, we're all for music and everything, but when it's blasting behind you, 6 speakers, and I hear from Indian Beach to to Diamond Point Park, that's not good out there. So we're just asking whatever you folks can do, and perhaps a suggestion on that would be have like maximum enforcement days where they pick a Saturday, even if they're understaffed, and just get out there. They don't have to write tickets. Just hit the air horn or the siren whoop, out there, and just, hey, 5 mile an hour speed limit, some Marine Patrol, please slow down or you'll be cited next time. That's it. Let's just let them know. Once enough people start hearing that and they realize, and then hopefully that'll be it. So that's all my point. Thank you again for all your hard work on that. Again, the Boston Whale is a great choice. Glad I recommended that last meeting on that. No acknowledgement from here on that. Okay. All righty. Everybody have a good night. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Always entertaining from Art. All right. Next up, we have Randy Rayleigh, track 3414, lot 414. Is Randy Rayleigh not here? All right. Next, we have Marha Kidd, track 3778, lot 201.
Dale, thank you for serving. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you so much, and good luck in your next endeavor. Maybe getting reelected, but this goes towards Paul because it's his last night. So I'll make it short and sweet. President Paul, you are my friend, and I supported you. After Eric Spitzer, who was also my friend, I needed to support someone who I felt would follow in his footsteps. He opened the door to a new way of communicating with the members and being transparent when he did that. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we all have to agree on every single thing, and you can't have an opinion that might be different than mine. That just means I was looking for someone who could independently think on his own and make his decisions based on what he heard from the community members, not his own personal agendas. Someone that respected the members and wasn't afraid to communicate. My voice is hoarse because I talk too much. I do. Okay. And wasn't afraid to communicate openly. Yes, you make decisions for us, so very important that we are considered when making those decisions. Well, President Paul, you have more than been that person. I know there are many of us, although they're not here tonight, I know they're here with you in spirit, and they love you and appreciate you, and they will miss you and your open dialogue with us. You set up a page to have direct contact with us. You made yourself available through your meetings the day before the actual POA meetings. You went out of your way to be true to what you said when you ran, and that was, you will represent the members. I remember that so well. So, I am very proud that I supported you. I couldn't be more thankful for all the wonderful things that have happened with you at the helm. You have managed to keep our assessments down, and yet, look how wonderful the place is looking. We've even added new amenities. I can't thank you enough for giving us your time, lots and lots of it. You have sacrificed so much for Canyon Lake and its members. Please know that you will go down as being one of our very best and favorite presidents. I brought you your favorite cake and Pepsi to celebrate your new freedom with your beautiful wife, Stacy. Thank you so very much. I love you.
Thank you. Can you hold on to those for me, Marhal? I can pick those up later. Can you hold on to those for me, please? I don't have room on my desk up here. Thank you so much for the kind words. That's very nice.
I think the leadership of which Mrs. Kidd is talking about was shown here tonight by the outgoing people of our community who have the bravery to come before us and say, this is something that we don't want, even though I think we thought we did want it. So Paul's always listened to the community, and I've listened to the community, and all the board members are listening to the community. We're doing the right thing by listening to the community. In prior boards that I was not a part of, that didn't always happen. So I'm glad to be associated with this board, especially respectful of a very, very good man and a man of his word. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Phil, as well. Next up, we have Travis Montgomery, track 3863, lot 10.
Travis Montgomery, 3863, lot 10. I want to thank the board for the pump track transparency discussion that you had tonight with the homeowners. That's what's supposed to happen, to hear what the people have to say and also to have the board members' comments after they hear that, an open, transparent discussion. I think you learned something too from the comments regarding the fishing, but you almost missed it when you proposed to table that item. And what concerns me is that it was said that we, meaning the board, have discussed this in executive session, and we think that maybe what we need to do is just enforce the rules better. That's not transparency when you discussed it in executive session and came to a conclusion. And what concerns me about this is that these were rule changes, and I don't see how they fall under the permitted executive session topics which Davis Sterling sets down as appropriate for the board to discuss. Those 4 items are personnel issues, third-party contracts, member discipline, and legal matters. And it's pretty well spelled out in there that those are the items that are to be discussed in executive session. And that's because of transparency is the desire of Davis Sterling to have the kind of conversations that were had this evening when you did do that. I don't believe that had the fishing discussion that you had, and had you passed that motion, falls under any of those categories of personnel, third-party contracts, member discipline, or legal matters. Although there could have been lawsuits resulting from it, and maybe that's a broad brush that's used to paint legal matters. But if you're going to use that broad brush, anything can be discussed. But you've had two good examples this evening of where you have broken with and had 30-minute discussion, the president said. That's great. We got 4,800 homes in here. We've got a $17 million budget. We're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we gave 30 minutes to the people to talk about it. I commend you on that. Maybe it could be 45 or an hour on that consequence. So I hope that as the new board comes in next year, that you'll think and discuss amongst yourselves properly in organization what should be discussed in executive session, because it was very clear to me when that came out that was, in my opinion, you have an attorney who can advise you on it and who should be in those meetings, but I don't find it falling under personnel issues, third-party contracts, member discipline, or legal matters. And you see what happens when you do open it up for discussion, as you got with the fishing and the pump track. So thank you.
All right. Next, we have Dr. George Middle, track 3868, lot 183. You left. Last, we have Jim Berringham, track 3868, lot 637.
I started following board meetings about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And what I saw tonight was actually a thing of beauty, to see the communication with the homeowners and the board. Eric saved me a lot of time going through all the things that have been accomplished this last year also, because it was a good year for all of you. And I can tell you as a homeowner, I really appreciate it. Paul, I know this is your last hurrah here as the president. So I wanted to take a couple things when I was looking up out of the Friday Flyer. On 3/25/2016, part of your running for the board, I think the number one concern of the residents in the lake is the lake lease. Obviously, that's far behind us. We haven't talked about that in a long time. Some of the things that you said, a board member is your representative, so act like it and show some respect to the people that put you in there. I want town hall meetings where the members can discuss freely their concerns without time limits. I want a board that is responsive to what the members want instead of their own personal agendas. We need reasonable people on the board that understand their job is to represent us. To do this, we need the 66% that don't normally vote to come out and vote this year. And I think that goes for every year. Friday Flyer, 4/22/2016. I would like to say that if you elect me, I will do my absolute best to represent everyone in the lake equally, to be fair in all my decisions, and to always put the best interest of the people of Canyon Lake first and foremost. I remember the time I came to one of your town hall meetings, and it was just me. At that time, I hardly knew you. I appreciated the open communications you had with me, and have seen the same with so many other homeowners in this community. Although I have never been a Facebook fan, I realize it is a valuable way to communicate with our community, and you have used Facebook well. As a homeowner, I personally want to thank you for your service the past 2 years on the POA board.
with the past year being our president. As our president, our POA dues have been consistent for the past 2 years, and you put over $1 million plus into our reserves. Thank you as a homeowner. All the best for you and your wife as you go forward.
Thank you very much, Jim. That's the end of member comments, which means as I'm looking out of the audience and seeing Jack Ramsley, I think Jack's given me a last present too. This is the first time in 2 years he has not had a comment at this meeting. All right, on to a report of executive session actions. Lynn.
Good evening. Yesterday's executive session was held on April 30th. The meeting was called to order at 6:06 p.m. Items discussed on the agenda, there were 2 member-related discussion items. There were also 2 third-party contracts discussion items. There was an update provided on 3 legal matters. And lastly, there was 2 personnel matters discussed. The meeting concluded at 8:29 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. General Manager report, Eric.
Okay, it's getting late, so I'll be quick. But first of all, Lynn wanted to talk a little bit about the restaurants.
Hi again. So Eric normally gives all the departments a shout out, and definitely we want to thank all our staff. This has been an awesome year, but I did want to give a special shout out to the restaurants. We got the financials last week, and yesterday Chrissy gave me some awesome news, so we thought we'd share with everybody. Quick tidbit, the country club's annual budget for revenue was $633,000. As of 2 weeks ago, they were at $822,000. This month, she had a personal goal of hitting $100,000, and they hit that yesterday. They were actually at $105,000 for the end of April. Woo-hoo! So I'm very, very proud of them. The lodge also had a large revenue. Their annual revenue was budgeted at $921,000, and as of 2 weeks ago, they were at $1,069,000. So I'm really proud of the restaurant. Thank you.
Go back to me. So we made some management changes in the restaurants, and we renovated the country club, and all of that is obviously paying off. So awesome job to both of those houses. I want to thank you again, Dale and Paul. It's been an amazing couple years. As usual, I'll refer everybody to the department reports. They start on page 49 of your agendas, which will be either online or you may have grabbed them on the table outside. Activities is working hard, planning for Fiesta Day. We have a new tennis pro, Pete Walrod, joining Tony, Maria, and Dawn for tennis lessons. Check the website for that. We had a successful Surf City All-Stars concert. The pool is open. Communications is working hard on golf course marketing, promoting a new Tuesday Golf League and new family golf memberships, and promoting the board elections. Please vote. Operations, as usual, is unbelievably busy. Steve and his staff are doing just an amazing job. We have another big project that kicked off about a couple weeks ago that's been talked about for probably a decade or more, and that's the mailbox replacement project. And a big thank you to Elaine and Amanda for their hard work getting that project, moving that project forward. The golf course lake bypass pump project is underway. Marine Patrol dock, new Marine Patrol dock is almost finished. The Marine Patrol building at the main launch ramp will be starting soon. In the next week or two. The amphitheater should be starting probably in a week or two. Indian Beach stage and lights were recently repaired. The Lake Lighthouse, pretty big deal. It's an icon, a 50-year-old icon in our community that's crumbling, and that we're finally renovating that. The top is nearly done, and the rest of it will also be finished in the coming weeks. Happy Camp renovation will be open soon. And there's Harmony wanted me to tell everybody, anybody that's left, there's a big cake over here on the table with Dale and Paul's name on it, so stick around if you want a piece of cake.
You should have said that a long time ago.
I should have. More cake for you now.
All right, I've been told that Community Patrol had an emergency they had to go to, so they're not going to be giving us a report tonight. So next up is Corporate Counsel.
Thank you, Paul. Dale and Paul, I want to thank you very much for all your hard work on the lake lease. You guys persevered with a very difficult project, a very difficult adversary, the EVMWD, and something that has been, frankly, a thorn in the side of the POA for decades. You now have a long-term lake lease. You guys persevered and have a fair indemnity agreement with both sides responsible for their own actions. You have a CPI increase instead of a water rate increase that'll save you millions of dollars, and you have the longest term of a lake lease that I've ever seen. Okay, so you are set. And you also have a reasonable interpretation and reasonable procedure if you have any disputes in the future, so you won't have to go through this mess. Paul, in particular, I want to thank you for pushing me and for your friendship on pushing me towards putting in the recreational use aspect of the lake. There was quite a bit of pushback, and it was a tough little struggle on that one, but we got that through. And that was great. I'm glad you pushed me on it. I wasn't sure if I could do this without your help, frankly. So I really personally appreciate your friendship and help on that. I mean, it wasn't exactly an easy job to get this thing through, and we really, together with Dale and the rest of the board, finally did get this through. But the last thing I want to say to the membership is I've been doing this 37 years. I've done, I don't know, hundreds if not thousands of board meetings. I've had hundreds of boards. You should be very honored and privileged to have a board, all the board, with such intelligence, such competence too, by the way. And those two things go together, along with the most hardworking board with a volunteer position that is more than a full-time position. And Paul gets no sleep. He got no sleep during this whole process. You know, I don't know how he would survive, to be honest with you. I couldn't do it. And I wanted to thank you, and I think the membership all should thank them for all their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Howard. I should point out that most of the lake lease work that was done, that we were able to accomplish, was because of Howard and his team. He's giving the board a little bit more credit than I think we deserve. We steered him in the direction we wanted to go, but Howard did all the hard work. Thank you very much for getting that done for us, Howard.
Thank you, Paul, but you really did help a lot. Thank you.
All right, next up we have board comments. Dale, go ahead.
I'm going to keep it brief. I just want to be great staff. I think at the POA we should be thanking our lucky stars for the staff we have that really carry out the work. We sit on top of the board and kind of point our fingers here and there, but it is the staff that it really drives all of this. And I just want to say appreciate everything they've done. And at that, I'll say the cake's about 4 or 5 minutes away with a little luck. So.
Mike?
I'm looking forward to the cake. No, I want to say that it's been amazing. You know, it is a lot of hard work, but this board has really worked together. We've disagreed over different items from time to time. I disagree with Paul quitting, you know, but that's life. But, you know, I really appreciate every one of us, the time we put in, you know, and Paul, we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
You know, and the staff has been wonderful. As long as I can tell Eric what to do, I'm fine.
Tom?
I want to thank everybody for coming, people that aren't here anymore, but the people that are here still, especially, you know, this is the fun part at the end, right? But, you know, it's a good thing to see the community coming out, expressing their opinions and concerns, because that's how we get to do our job better, making the decisions that really impact the community and guide the decisions in a way that make it so that the people and the members are happy with what we're doing. We've had a really good year. The newbies, me, Phil, Mike, you know, we're rookies, and now we got a year under our belt, and we're still here. We're gonna go one more year, I think, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a very pleasant year, I think, and seeing a lot of accomplishment for this whole board, and I'm looking forward to that. Just keep on rolling, and let's keep moving in that same direction, and keep improving on our community and making things better. And I hope we can keep engaging with the members and getting them to come out and respond. And if we could only get them to vote more, that would be the really good thing. Thank you.
The theme is vote, vote, vote. We all want the votes, whether it's for this candidate or that candidate. Please, everybody in Canyon Lake that's reading this or hearing it, vote. I wish to say it's been an amazing year. I wasn't sure what I was getting into last year when I was elected. I know that we've had some heated exchanges at executive committee meetings about what we want for our community, but we're really not very far off from each other. We just want a little bit here or a little bit there. I think we have a lot of good men up here working for the community in the best possible light. They're intelligent, they're articulate, and there's some of us that are handsome. We want to go on forward. We want to keep the community in the stream that we're going through. Let's try to keep a balanced budget. Let's do as many amenities next year as we've done this year. And thank everyone for coming tonight, voicing the opinion. We heard you. That's what is called transparency. We're not trying to push something on you don't want. We thought you wanted it. Turns out that's not where you wanted it. So we're going to find a better place. Thank you.
All right. It is my last board meeting tonight, so I hope you'll bear with me. There's a few people I want to thank. I'll try and keep it short. I'm not a fan of long speeches. First, I want to thank my beautiful wife, Stacy, for all her support and for being so tolerant of the long hours and meetings and basically giving all my free time to the POA. Thank you, Stace. I also want to thank everyone that supported me, campaigned for me, advised me, voted for me, and put their trust in me to represent all of you. I want to thank my fellow directors here tonight for all their hard work and for trusting me to serve as your board president for this past year. I also want to thank last year's board members that aren't here at this table tonight, Bruce Yarbrough, Eric Spitzer, and Ted Horton. Thank you for your hard work and leadership. I want to thank our exceptional legal team for all their hard work on your behalf. This is the team that resolved the lake lease for all of us, and they really deserve all the thanks. Howard, please pass on my thank you to your whole team. I also want to thank the hardworking staff. You guys have had a great year, and you serve us all so well. I know you're not all here tonight, but please pass on my thanks to the entire staff, and hopefully I'll be coming around in the next week or so to thank you all personally. I want to make a special thanks to our general manager, Eric Kazikoff. Believe it or not, I've worked with 3 GMs during my time on the board, and I believe that Eric is by far the best GM that we've ever had. Don't let this guy get away, you guys. I think we could literally look for a replacement for Eric for 150 years and never find as effective or competent a GM as he's been. Great job, Eric, and thank you so much for all your support and all your time.
Thank you. Somebody write that down.
Some people have already touched on this, but some of the projects that we've accomplished in the 2 years that I've served, we put in a lot of new playground equipment at many of our parks. We put in pickleball courts, dog park, upgrades at Eastport, the main gate signage, monuments, and water features, the blue lighted buoys throughout the lake, new rail docks at the lodge, the remodel of the country club, the new patio on this building, the remodeling of the Holiday Bay Room and lower rooms, the pump track is upcoming, resurfacing of tennis courts and basketball courts, repair of erosion at the causeways, and ongoing right now are the remodel of the campground and the replacement of all our mailboxes. There's so many items that Eric mentioned, a lot of them, I'm sure I'm forgetting quite a few. But the point is that we got a lot of things done for you, and they're all things that you asked for. I think for the most part, this board has totally executed on not having personal agendas and just trying to get the things done that the community has asked for of us. And while getting all of those things done, we also saved so much money that we were able to reduce the operating budget by $750,000 this year and accumulate $1.6 million in surpluses. I think that's quite an accomplishment. what do I think the biggest accomplishments that we've had are? In my mind, the number one accomplishment, the thing that scared me the most when I was elected to this board, was we were in the middle of that lake lease lawsuit. And settling the lake lease lawsuits and guaranteeing a sustainable lake lease for all of us for the next 80 years, that was paramount. That was huge. And it took a huge weight off my mind and my chest when we reached that settlement, and I realized that we weren't going to have a problem with the lake lease anymore, because it was scary, especially when you're sitting in these chairs. Rebuilding the relationship between the community and the board. When I came on, it was a very tense relationship between the community and the board. I think the community felt that the board wasn't doing what they wanted them to do. And I think through, communication with the members, listening to them, helping them with their issues, doing the projects that they asked for without personal agendas, I really feel like one of my major accomplishments is that we've rebuilt the faith in the board, the community's faith in the board. They feel that we're actually working for them and with them now, and I think that's a huge accomplishment. 3 was mentioned previously, putting a new security company and better security in place. We had so many complaints about security and things not being done right, and I'm actually seeing a lot of people commenting now about how much a better job the new security company is doing for us. So I really think that was a major accomplishment, and that was huge. And lastly, just communicating with the members and updating them throughout my term, listening to their needs, talking with them, keeping them updated on what their board is doing and why. Keeping that transparency and communication to the community makes them feel that, again, that we're working with them and not against them. And if nothing else, a lot of times they don't understand why the board's doing something and they don't have an opportunity to hear it. But when we have a Facebook page out there where I can say, this is why we did it, a lot of times that made all the problems with the things that were being done go away. People would say, oh, I understand now, and then they're not complaining about it. So I think that communication has been one of the most important things. I feel that I've been everything that I would want a board member to be. So as I leave, it's my sincerest hope that you guys all feel the same. That's it. Thank you, guys.
I make a motion that we close the meeting at
Second.
whatever, 9:44.
All in favor?
Aye.